Okay, whoa, this deep dive is, well, let's just say it's a bit of a doozy. We're going to be talking about some pretty serious stuff. Allegations of misconduct at Fox Sports. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, and it's not just rumors this time. We've got a full-on lawsuit. Some pretty big names involved, too, like Skip Bayless and Joy Taylor.
Right. Skip Bayless, the, Mr. Undisputed, always stirring the pot. And Joy Taylor, she's everywhere at Fox these days. Big personality.
And this whole thing really kicks off with a lawsuit from a former Fox Sports stylist. Her name's Nushin Faraji. She's alleging, well, a lot of troubling behavior, and not just from Bayless, but from Taylor and even a Fox exec, Charlie Dixon.
So this is shaping up to be a big story, huh? Let's start with Faraji's lawsuit. What's she actually claiming?
Well, she says that Skip Bayless touched her inappropriately multiple times, lingering hugs, pressing up against her, stuff like that.
Yikes, that's already not good.
Right, and then there were comments calling her voluptuous all the time, making her uncomfortable, you know?
I mean, is that even up for debate, whether that's appropriate or not? Sounds pretty bad.
And it gets worse. The lawsuit says Bayless actually propositioned her for sex, offered her like $1.5 million, said he could change her life.
Whoa, that is... wow. If that's true, that's a major abuse of power.
Totally. And this is, like, really messed up, but it gets worse. He kept making these advances even after Faraji told him she was having possible ovarian cancer symptoms.
Man, I mean, you'd think someone would back off at that point.
You'd think. But the lawsuit says no. And then there was this whole thing where she mentioned his wife, and he made some racially insensitive comment about her being Muslim.
So are we seeing a pattern here? It's
a lot, right? Yeah. And we're not even done yet, because it's not just Bayless. There are accusations against Joy Taylor, too.
Right, Joy Taylor. So what's she being accused of?
Well, the lawsuit claims that Taylor was romantically involved with a Fox Sports exec, Charlie Dixon, and that she used that relationship to, climb the ladder at Fox.
Okay, so that raises some questions about favoritism, right? But it sounds like there's more to it.
Yeah, so get this. Faraji confided in Taylor about Dixon allegedly groping her at a party, and Taylor basically told her to get over it.
Come on. Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I don't even know what to say. It just adds to the feeling that, people in power, they just don't listen.
Exactly. And it just makes you wonder how many other people have experienced something similar, but were too afraid to speak up.
It's like if you can't go to someone who's supposed to be your colleague, your peer, who can you trust? It's pretty disturbing. But wait, the lawsuit also mentions Taylor potentially using relationships with other colleagues for her career, even planning to accuse Dixon of something if he was no longer useful to her. And then, on top of it all, Taylor allegedly made some pretty offensive, racially insensitive remarks to Faraji, too.
Yeah, it's all in there. Comments about her appearance, her background. It paints a pretty ugly picture.
So we're seeing this potential pattern of bad behavior coming from multiple directions. It's not just one bad apple, right? Mm-hmm. It's starting to feel like maybe it's the whole barrel. Like something's wrong at Fox at a deeper level.
Yeah, and we have to say, for the record, these are just allegations right now. Everyone named has a right to defend themselves.
Right, of course. Innocent until proven guilty and all that.
Absolutely. But even so, these allegations, if they're true, they point to a potentially really toxic work environment, a place where people feel like they can abuse their power and get away with it.
And we have to think about the bigger picture, too. I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen these kinds of accusations in the media world. Mm-hmm. There have been similar cases at ESPN, NFL Network, places like that.
Exactly. So maybe it's not just a Fox problem. Maybe it's a media industry problem. And that's something we need to talk about. It really does feel like peeling back layers of an onion, Every time we dig a little deeper, things get, messier. We talked about Skip Bayless, but Joy Taylor, that adds a whole other layer to this.
It's a lot to process, for sure. But, I think it's really important to remember we're talking about real people here. Nushin Faraji, she's making some pretty serious accusations. Right. It takes guts to do that, especially against people like, big names in the media.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to get lost in all the details of the lawsuit and the accusations, but we can't forget, there's a real person who says she was hurt and she's looking for, some kind of justice.
It makes you wonder how many other people might have, experienced similar stuff but felt like they couldn't speak up.
Right. And it just highlights, again, like we were saying before, how important it is to have a workplace where people feel safe to talk about these things without, fear of retaliation or just being ignored.
A lot of people might think that sexual harassment is black and white, easy to identify. But this case, it shows that it can be really complicated, right? Power dynamics, subtle pressure, the fear of losing your job, all that stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, harassment takes many forms, right? It can be blatant and aggressive, but it can also be, more insidious, unwanted touching, but also like inappropriate jokes, unwanted advances, even just creating an environment where people feel uncomfortable.
And then you have this whole other thing in this case, which is like how personal relationships play into all of this. The allegations about Joy Taylor and those relationships, it makes you think about like conflicts of interest, right?
Yeah.
And, maybe even favoritism and how that impacts things at work.
Definitely. When personal relationships and professional responsibilities get mixed up, it gets murky. It can be really hard to keep things fair and objective.
So, like, where do we go from here? This lawsuit, it's just getting started. No one knows how it's going to end. But it feels like it's already, like, started this important conversation about the culture at Fox and in the media industry in general.
I think that's right. This case has brought some really troubling stuff into the light. We can't ignore it now. And it's making us confront some uncomfortable truths. It's not just about individual bad behavior. It's about, like, systems that allow this behavior to happen.
Okay, so from a legal perspective, what could happen here? If this class action lawsuit is successful, what could it mean for Fox and, the people involved?
Well, it could get pretty serious. Fox could face big fines, damage to their reputation, and, they might be forced to really make some changes to their workplace culture. And it might not stop there, right? Other media companies might have to look in the mirror, too, and rethink their policies.
And for people like, Skip Bayless and Joy Taylor, what are the stakes here? What happens if these allegations are proven true?
Well, their careers could be basically over. They could get fired from Fox, lose endorsement deals. It might be really hard for them to work in this industry again. The accusations are pretty serious.
Yeah, it's a reminder that actions have consequences, right?
Yeah.
Even for people with power and influence, they're not above the rules.
Exactly. This whole thing really underscores how important it is to, be ethical, to lead responsibly, and to create a workplace where everyone feels safe and respected. Like, that's the bare minimum.
I'm thinking about, like, young people who want to work in media. This case must be, like, super disheartening for them.
It's a harsh dose of reality for sure, but I hope it's also like a wake-up call. We have to hold media companies accountable for creating workplaces that are respectful and professional. We have to challenge toxic behavior and really push for change.
It's not enough to just, like, not be part of the problem. We all have to actively work to make things better, right? We have to be part of the solution.
Exactly. And that starts with conversations like this. By talking about these things openly and honestly, we can start to, like, break down the systems that protect this kind of behavior. And maybe, just maybe, we can create a future where everyone in the industry feels safe and valued.
It's a lot, right? And you start to think, like, what can we even do about this? It's such a big problem, this whole culture,
Yeah, it's a big challenge, but I don't think we should, like, just throw up our hands and say, oh, well. I really do think individuals can make a difference.
Really? You think so? Like, I'm not a CEO or anything. Can I actually change things?
Yeah. I mean, change usually starts small, right? With people speaking up, pushing back, demanding better.
So even if I'm not, some big shot, I can still do something.
Of course. We can all be advocates for change, right? In our own little corner of the world. Whether it's, calling out bad behavior when we see it, supporting people who speak out, or even just having honest conversations about these things, all of that helps.
And it's important to remember that this doesn't just happen, in Hollywood or on TV.
Yeah.
This stuff, it happens everywhere.
Absolutely. It can happen in any workplace, any social setting, wherever you have power imbalances.
So, like, practically speaking, what can we do to, spot this stuff and deal with it in our own lives?
Well, first of all, educate yourself. Learn about the different types of harassment, what your rights are, how to report incidents, that kind of thing.
So it's not just about knowing the rules, it's also about...
It's about creating a culture of respect, right? Being mindful of how our words and actions affect others.
Yeah, like thinking before you speak, being aware of the power dynamics.
Exactly. It's about making sure everyone feels safe and respected. And that takes constant work, being willing to, like, look at our own biases.
It's like this deep dive has given us a flashlight, and now we have to, use it, shine a light on these dark corners.
And when we bring these things out in the open, that's when we can start to dismantle the systems that protect them and hopefully build a better, more just future for everyone.
So we've covered a lot, and, it's heavy stuff, but I want to leave you with this. These allegations against Skip Bayless and Joy Taylor, if they're true, it's a betrayal of trust, a betrayal of their colleagues, their viewers, everyone who admired them.
It's a stark reminder that power without integrity, without accountability, it can be really dangerous. We all have a responsibility to hold each other to a higher standard, no matter who we are or what our job is.
So let this be a wake-up call, right? To be more aware, more compassionate, more courageous in fighting for a world where everyone can thrive, where no one has to face harassment or abuse,